Okay, today I want to discuss yet another video game acquisition because this one in particular feels like a step in the wrong direction for all the wrong reasons. First things first, as the title suggests, I'm talking about Square Enix because recently, April 2nd, 2022, Square Enix entered into an agreement with Embracer Group to sell not one, not two, but three separate studios to this global parent company, including Crystal Dynamics, Idor Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal. The deal encompasses over 1,000 employees, multiple AAA franchises, including Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and others, with a backwards catalog of over 50 titles in various different games. It's a big purchase, and while it may pale in comparison to Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard, for example, it matters to a great deal of people. However, rather than discussing the implications of this deal when it comes to intellectual property, like Tomb Raider or Deus Ex, I think those are probably better off than everything that was left with Square Enix, I want to discuss why it has happened and put forward my opinion that it was a monumental mistake. Right off the bat, this acquisition fits within a broader narrative that I refer to as the acquisition wars, and it's indicative of that very same trend. I've done a video about it in the past if you want to check it out, and it's up to the individual whether or not they believe that the trend is good for gaming itself, but I just wanted to make note of the fact that this ties into a broader example of large corporations such as Microsoft or the Embracer Group gobbling up smaller companies and studios as they expand their existing library of intellectual property to, well, as far as they can make it reach. Good or bad, up to you. So, knowing that this is an example of what amounts to a larger industry trend, why do I believe that this sale in particular, this one, above all others, is the worst mistake yet for Square Enix? In order to explain that, we need to go back in time. May 11th, 2018, Square Enix begins to circulate a corporate briefing, and this briefing, among other things, contains a reference to blockchain with a statement that they will be aggressively investing in the technology among other emerging trends. That's 2018, and remember, aggressively investing in that space. Jumping forward, we get to January 1st, 2019. Yosuke Matsuda, president of Square Enix, puts out a New Year's letter to the company that contains three separate references to blockchain, stating, quote, "We are also very interested in potential applications for blockchain technology in the digital content space," end quote. Again, this is 2019, well and truly before the more widespread push to incorporate blockchain and NFT technology into video games. Our next item of note comes in March of 2021. Square Enix and Double Jump Tokyo, a blockchain-centered development company, announced that they will be partnering up to pursue NFT integrations for the Million Arthur series. This comes shortly before a further announcement during their results briefing, I believe to investors, which refers to this NFT project as a successful use case for NFTs in video games. To be specific here, quote, "Today I'll be discussing taking on new domains, namely concrete initiatives involving NFTs and our full-fledged entry into blockchain games," end quote. All of this should, ideally, demonstrate that Square Enix is highly invested in the concept of NFT integrations, but to round out the picture fully, in 2022, January 1st, and this is probably the most notorious example from them, once again a New Year's letter, Yosuke Matsuda says, quote, "I see 2021 not only as Metaverse Year 1, but also as NFTs Year 1, given that it was a year in which NFTs were met with a great deal of enthusiasm by a rapidly expanding user base," end quote. AKA, despite his moderate skepticism about their treatment as an asset class, we are still highly invested in this trend, that's what he's saying, and we are looking to pursue it further. Last item. In reference to the sale that just occurred, the big sale with Tomb Raider and Deus Ex and multiple studios, to the Embracer Group, Square Enix made a statement explicitly connecting this asset sale to their desire to expand their presence in blockchain. The sale would, quote, "enable the launch of new businesses by moving forward with investments in fields including blockchain, AI, and the cloud," end quote. In summary, Square Enix has been going down this road for well over 4 years. They have made numerous mentions of the technology to both internal employees and external investors, and are now selling off assets to pursue it further. Despite claims that I see circulating on social media with regards to this deal that try to downplay this as a main focus of theirs, saying it's not, they're looking at AI and the cloud just as much. It seems fairly self-evident to me that they are not just piling onto a buzzword trend, they are going down full throttle, going down this road, despite the numerous failed projects that have already existed from publishing competitors like Ubisoft, EA, and GSC Game World. So why does this matter so much? Square Enix has a long-established obsession with blockchain and NFT technology, but who cares? The answer is all of their fans. They care. According to a recent report from the Wall Street Journal, citing nonfungible.com, there has been a massive drop in NFT interest. Now, before the crypto bros start crawling out of the woodwork screaming about how inaccurate this article really is, I would agree that the Wall Street Journal has gotten some things quite wrong here. However, there are a couple of key takeaways that we can look at, including the metrics regarding active wallets. According to Non-Fungible and every other tracking aggregate site I could find, the number of active NFT trading wallets has dramatically decreased over the past few months. By itself, who knows, it could be a simple and temporary downturn, that's what they like to call it, or it could be a market collapse, I'm not sure, but when you look at the broader picture in context, things begin to make quite a bit more sense. According to a scientific report in 2021, NFTs are primarily traded by a small group of people. In fact, 85% of all transactions are conducted by just 10% of the total users, meaning that a small number of extremely active participants are driving the trade volume higher consistently. In addition, according to Chainalysis, there is a significant presence of wash trading by the most active wallets. This means that within that small, active population, many of the transactions are actually self-created to try and manipulate the market. What's even worse is that the general NFT marketplace is dominated by a select few collections, and if you look at the percentage dominance of those collections versus everything else in the space, it is becoming intensely stratified towards a specific set of NFTs. In conjunction, we can logically conclude that there is a significant downtrend in active user wallets. Of those active wallets, an extremely small number conduct the lion's share of all trading, and within that small group's trade volume is an abundance of self-created wash trading, within a specific few collections primarily that are rapidly becoming, by far, the most dominant group in terms of overall volume and, most importantly, value. Basically, to distill it down to the central premise, NFTs are being traded by a much smaller group of people than you may be led to believe, who trade amongst themselves, often to themselves, within a tiny set of collections that have rapidly inflating relative value. In essence, the volume of NFT trading might increase, the value of NFTs might increase, but the adoption isn't, and the actual public interest isn't there. Square Enix is doubling, maybe tripling down on a technology trend that is nowhere near as successful or popular as its followers are trying to pretend. They are doubling down on something that is not necessary for video games in any capacity whatsoever, and they are doing this, financing it, I should say, by selling off incredibly popular franchises with dedicated fans that are just looking for content. Now, you may start to wonder what's the point, and maybe Square Enix have something incredible planned in the pipeline, but I would argue that they probably can't, because even the most successful iterations so far of NFT or blockchain-based gaming, at this point, have been a complete disaster. For examples of this, look no further than Ubisoft. Ubisoft launched a Digit program, digits are just NFTs, they just didn't want to call them NFTs officially, through the Quartz platform, that utterly and completely failed. It had abysmal volume, zero interest, and when faced with that failure, Ubisoft representatives claimed that gamers just don't get it. I mean, they were the ones tying these crappy NFTs to something like 100 or 600 hours of playtime. No one was ever going to play for that long just to get them, and it was a complete failure. Want more? Okay. Axie Infinity. I have a video about this one subject in particular, so definitely check that out as well, but Axie Infinity, the world's most successful and high-profile, air quotes, NFT game, boasting millions of players, was forced to radically change its entire economic structure because, quote, and this is the developer speaking, not me, quote, "The Axie economy requires drastic and decisive action now or we risk total and permanent economic collapse," end quote. In essence, Square Enix is pursuing something that has been full-scale rejected by their core community, their core existing community. They are pursuing something that even in its own isolated ecosystem is economically unsafe and unstable, and they are doing this for a deceptively small group of traders who have somehow been able to appear larger in both influence and number than they actually are. By selling core franchises in an effort to fund this new venture, Square Enix has, in my humble opinion, possibly crippled themselves. The market for blockchain games might exist, but it is far smaller than many seem to understand. Play-to-earn gaming is trendy, I guess, but it's an economic quagmire that probably has no solution, at least not one readily available. In order to produce games for this highly unstable, deceptively small community, Square Enix has to find a completely new demographic and capitalize on their interests successfully, which would mean alienating and pushing away the players who have supported them for years. That is not a safe business model. It can be done, but switching demographics is a long, painful, financially crippling process, and yet Square Enix has decided to do exactly that by selling off core properties and leaning into a trend that is widely hated by the community that they currently pretend to serve. Square Enix has expressed an intention to integrate token economics, NFTs, and further blockchain tech in their games, but they are doing this by alienating their existing core customers and selling high-profile franchises and studios to other companies. In my mind, there is only one direction for this decision to lead, and that is basically straight downward, fast. Perhaps I'm wrong, and perhaps this will be the most startling and successful pivot we have ever seen in video games, but my argument is that Square Enix have just made the worst decision I have ever seen them make as a company, and it's baffling to me that they even went down this road. That's it. If you want to support, there are links down below. I'm focusing mainly on Patreon and locals to diversify away from ad revenue. There's also Odyssey, a YouTube platform alternative where you can watch my entire content library completely for free. There's another YouTuber to check out, merchandise, social media, and I guess apparently super comments on videos now or something like that. I enabled it, but I'm not entirely sure how it all works. Plus a few more things, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.